Okay, so what if you could, like, buy a property in Europe for almost nothing? A euro.
It sounds like pure fantasy, doesn't it? But since around 2010, starting Sicily, it's actually become a thing.
Yeah, it's moved from being this kind of urban myth to a real possibility. So today, we're diving into these one-house schemes.
Exactly. It's quite a fascinating strategy, really. These super low prices are being used deliberately to, well, to revitalize
To
areas.
fight depopulation, right, and save historic buildings that are just falling apart.
Precisely. It's a direct response to some pretty big demographic shifts happening in certain parts of Europe.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we've pulled together the latest info on where these things are happening. Think of this as your shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at where you can find these deals, from those little Mediterranean villages
Lovely.
to maybe even alpine spots. And we'll unpack what's really involved.
Because it's definitely not just about paying €1.
Not at all. Our mission here is basically to sift through the noise and give you the core info, the reality behind that one sticker price. We're looking all over different countries, different styles of houses.
And different rules, too. That's key. Each town seems to have its own spin on it, its own reasons, and specific requirements. You really need to know the local details.
Right. So, where should we start? Maybe Croatia.
Yeah, let's kick things off there. Legrad. It's this rather charming village right on the border with Hungary.
And they were pretty early with this idea, weren't they? Started back in 2018.
They were, and some places there apparently sold for even less than €1, like 0.13 or 13 cents.
13 cents. Wow, that's basically free. It shows how much they wanted people, I guess.
It really does. It signals this strong push to bring people back, reverse that population decline.
Apparently, it's worked to some extent. They've attracted new residents. The place is supposed to have nice green areas, traditional buildings.
That's the report, yes.
Yeah.
Success in bringing people in. But of course, there are conditions.
Ah, yes. The catch. So for Legrad, what are they?
Okay, so you need to be under 45.
Right.
You need to be in a marital relationship, married or cohabiting, presumably.
Okay.
No criminal record. And this is important, you can't already own another property.
Another property anywhere. Or just in Croatia, does it say?
The source we looked at doesn't specify. That's definitely a crucial detail you'd need to chase down if you were seriously considering it.
Good point. So they're clearly aiming for younger families, people putting down roots.
Exactly. People who'll stay become part of the community, not just investors or holiday home buyers. Makes sense.
Okay, let's head over to France. Saint-Amand-Montrond. This one's interesting because apparently it's the only place in France doing this right now.
Seems so. And it's quite a recent addition to the whole Euro house map.
It's described as picturesque, central France, lots of history, castles, museums. Sounds lovely.
It does sound nice, but the scale there seems totally different from Legrad. Well, the report mentioned only one property was actually up for sale under this scheme in 2024. Just one.
One house. Okay, so getting that would be like winning the lottery.
Okay.
Extremely competitive.
Extremely. And maybe it's more of a pilot project or they're just being very cautious.
And the strings attached sound pretty tight, too. Renovate within 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and you have to commit to living there for 10 years.
10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. And they specifically say no second homes, no rentals. They want full-time residents.
It really points to a very deliberate strategy focused purely on long-term integration and repopulation, not just fixing up a house, but building the community. Very different vibe from just selling off cheap property.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift south now. Portugal, Wilhelm.
Ah, the Algarve.
Right. So this could appeal to people wanting that coastal lifestyle, but maybe finding the usual Algarve prices a bit steep.
Makes sense. Proximity to the sea is a big draw. And Faro isn't far, right? Under 20 minutes drive.
Yeah, exactly. So good location. And apparently Oham occasionally has these Euro properties pop up.
Occasionally. So, not a constant stream, but worth keeping an eye on if you like the area. Given how popular the Algarve is, even occasional Euro houses seem surprising.
It does, and the deal seems familiar. You buy for €1, but you must commit to a full renovation within a set time.
The standard quid pro quo. Fix up our derelict building, basically.
And there might be a deposit involved, too, something like $5,000.
Right, a financial guarantee.
Yeah.
To make sure you actually follow through with the renovations. It protects the town's investment, in a way.
Is $5,000 typical for these deposits, or does that feel high?
It varies quite a bit, but yeah, $5,000 is definitely a noticeable amount. It shows they're serious about the renovation part.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Switzerland, Montesiaga.
Switzerland. Now, that's unexpected in this context, usually associated with very high property prices.
Exactly. But back in 2019, they actually did this, offered houses for 1 Swiss franc, about €1 or maybe $1.20 back then.
Wow. So it's not just a Mediterranean thing. Even in Switzerland, some communities face these issues.
Apparently so. Monte Sayaga sounds stunning Swiss-Italian border, amazing mountain views. Imagine getting that for a franc.
The motivation was the same, though, right? Attract people, revitalize the village.
Yep, same story. Bring in new residents, inject some life. And the condition was, again, you had to restore the place within a certain time frame.
Makes sense.
Now, they don't have any listed right now, just to be clear. But maybe worth watching, especially if you fancy living near Lake Como.
Absolutely. The fact they've done it once means the mechanism exists. It could potentially come back if conditions warrant it. Something to bookmark if that region appeals to you.
Okay, back to Italy, which, let's face it, seems to be the heartland for these schemes.
Definitely seems like the pioneer in the most active country.
We're looking at Toronto now. And this is interesting because it's a city, not a tiny village.
Ah, right. Puglia region, southern coast.
Yeah, sea views, big castle, the Aragonese Castle. So a different vibe than a remote hamlet.
More amenities, potentially more jobs, maybe a different type of person attracted to it, but still tackling the same issue of abandoned buildings.
And their scheme is quite broad in who can apply. It's not just individuals. Companies can apply. People from outside the EU, agencies.
That's quite open. Suggests maybe a bigger scale regeneration effort, looking for various types of investment, perhaps.
But the commitment is still hefty. You buy for €1, you have to fully renovate within just 1 year.
1 year. That sounds incredibly tight.
Yeah, seems very ambitious. You'd need your plans, your builders, your funding all lined up, basically from day one.
Definitely requires serious planning and resources. Not for the faint of heart, that timeline.
Okay, staying in Italy, let's head back to Sicily, Musameli.
Another Sicilian town trying to combat population loss.
Exactly. Launched their Casa €1 project to bring people and businesses in, boost the economy.
And this one's quite well known, isn't it? They even have their own website for it.
They do, which is pretty organized. Shows a real commitment. When our source was checked, there were 6 properties listed on there.
Having a dedicated site makes it much easier for potential buyers to actually see what's available. It's a smart move.
One quirk for Musameli, though, you have to physically go there to complete the application.
Ah, so no purely remote applications. Might filter for people who are genuinely serious about relocating.
Could be, and if you get approved, you have 3 years to finish the renovations, which seems a bit more reasonable than Taranto's 1 year.
3 years is more common, yeah. Still requires commitment, but it's a more manageable time frame for major works.
And Musameli has its own attractions, too. A castle, a sanctuary. It looks like a proper historic town.
Seems like many of these places offer a rich cultural backdrop alongside the cheap property.
Let's jump over to the Abruzzo region now. Penne, this is a newer one, started in 2022.
Okay, relatively fresh to the scene.
And they apparently have quite a few properties potentially available, maybe up to 40.
40. Wow, that's a significant number.
Yes.
Suggests a real need for revitalization in Penne. Population's only around 1,200.
So a clear motivation there. What's interesting about Penne is they reportedly don't ask for an initial deposit.
Oh, so lower barrier to entry, initially at least.
Of no down payment needed up front. But the mayor did estimate that renovation costs would likely start around €20,000.
Right, so the one is symbolic, but the real cost comes immediately after with renovation. No deposit helps, but you still need substantial funds ready to go.
Absolutely. It makes it maybe more accessible to start, but the financial reality of the renovation is still very much there.
Of course, the euro is just the hook.
Back to Sicily again. Calatafimi Segesta, or just Calatafimi, near Palermo.
Another historic Sicilian town entering the fray. Lots of archaeology nearby, I believe. Segesta Archaeological Park.
That's the one, plus a castle, Castello Eufemio, and they've got a lot of houses listed, 48 abandoned properties for one.
48. That's even more than Penne. A huge stock of potential projects there.
But here's the catch, a big one. The deadline to apply was apparently November.
Ah, so a very specific, limited window. That might have passed already, depending on when someone's listening. Crucial detail.
Exactly. Always check the current status. And their timelines are also quite specific. Start work within 3 months of getting the permit, finish within 3 years.
Standard 3-year completion, but that quick start 3 months adds pressure right at the beginning. Need to be ready to move fast.
Right. You can't just buy it and sit on it for a year, figuring things out.
Definitely not.
Okay, one last Italian stop. Masenza. And this one has a pretty unique selling point.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Its location. It's less than 2 hours from Rome.
Wow. Okay, that's different. Proximity to a major capital city like Rome for a one-house opportunity, that's got to be attractive.
You'd think so. It's a hilltop town, about 3,100 people, scenery, history, medieval center, but with Rome relatively close by.
That offers a potentially appealing blend, the quieter Italian town life, but with easy access to everything Rome offers. That's a strong combination.
Their goals are familiar, though. Stop population decline, fix up the historic center, bring in new people.
Usual drivers.
And the timelines are similar, too. Start work in 3 months, finish renovations in 3 years.
Seems like that 3-month start, 3-year finish is becoming a bit of a standard model, at least in several Italian locations. It ensures momentum.
Yeah, it feels like a pattern emerging there. Okay, let's briefly jump across to the UK. Liverpool.
Ah, yes, the Homes for a Pound scheme. That got quite a bit of press back then.
It did. Announced in 2015. Same idea, really. Tackle abandoned houses, offer affordable routes to homeownership, and yes, you could literally buy a house for £1.
Shows it's not just a, Southern European or rural issue. Urban areas in the UK face similar problems with derelict housing stock.
Exactly. The Liverpool criteria were specific, though. You had to live and work in Liverpool already.
Right, focused on local residents.
Renovate within 12 months. Quite fast.
Very fast. Faster than most Italian ones we've discussed.
And you couldn't sell it for 5 years to prevent quick flipping.
Makes sense. Ensure commitment.
Liverpool's obviously a major city with lots going on, but, and this is key, this specific £1 scheme isn't active now.
Right. It was a specific project. It ran its course. Doesn't mean they won't do something similar again, but it's not currently available. Worth checking local council updates, though.
Definitely. Always check the current situation. Okay, Greece now. Antikythera Island.
The island famous for that ancient geared device, the Antikythera mechanism.
That's the one. And their approach was, well, different. They weren't selling houses for €1.
What were they doing?
They were offering free housing, plus they give you €500 a month for 3 years.
Hold on. Free house and they pay you.
Yeah.
€500 a month. Yeah. €18,000 in total stipend.
Yep. Incredible, right? What do you think drove that? Just sheer desperation to get people.
It has to be. That level of incentive, especially on a small, likely quite remote island, points to a critical need for new residents. It's a huge commitment from the community.
It's a beautiful island, no doubt. But yeah, you mentioned remote. It would be a very isolated lifestyle.
Absolutely. And even with free housing, you'd likely still face renovation costs and the practical challenges of island life. It's a massive lifestyle choice, not just a financial one.
Good point. Okay, finally, let's quickly touch on Ireland.
Ireland. Do they have one houses?
Not exactly a one scheme like Italy, but they have something called the Our Living Islands project.
Okay, what does that involve?
Instead of selling houses cheap, the government offers grants, potentially quite large ones, up to €82,000.
Wow, €82,000. That's substantial. What's the grant for?
It's specifically for renovating derelict properties on about 30 of Ireland's offshore islands.
Ah, so it's targeted financial help for the renovation costs, which, as we've seen, are the real hurdle. Interesting approach.
Yeah, places like Inishbofin, known for beaches and landscapes, the aim is the same. Bring life back to the islands, boost economies, save old buildings.
Makes sense. Direct support for the costly part.
To get the grant, you need to buy a property that's been vacant for at least 2 years, and it has to have been built before 1993.
So focusing on older, genuinely abandoned housing stock, a targeted approach to heritage preservation and repopulation.
Right. So wrapping this up, it's clear that this dream of super cheap European property isn't entirely a dream. There are real schemes out there.
Definitely real, but diverse across different countries, different requirements, different levels of commitment needed.
And that one price tag or even free housing, it's really just the very, very beginning of the story, isn't it?
Absolutely. The real investment comes next. The money for renovations, which can be substantial, and the time, the effort, the bureaucracy.
And usually that long-term commitment to actually live there become part of that community.
Yeah, these aren't primarily aimed at people looking for a cheap holiday place to flip. It's about community revitalization, fundamentally.
It really is. Bringing life back to places that need it. Saving buildings, yes, but also rebuilding the social fabric.
Which leads to a really interesting final thought for you listening. If you are genuinely tempted by this, which one of these places really captures your imagination? Is it the Italian hilltop town, the Croatian village, the remote Greek island?
And thinking beyond just the initial appeal, what skills do you think you'd really need? Is it DIY skills,
Right.
patience, language skills, maybe a particular mindset? What would be most valuable for actually making a success of this kind of adventure?
It's a fascinating proposition. A chance to own property incredibly cheaply, yes, but also a unique opportunity to step into a community that's actively trying to reinvent itself and to be part of that change. Something to really mull over.